What's going on, everybody? Kalipis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G and the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G. So let's get started. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 405, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 85.4%. With the Moto G Stylus 5G, we're getting a 6.8-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 386, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of around 85%. Both of these displays do look really nice. The 1080p resolutions give them nice, sharp, crisp images, great for content consumption, so whether you're streaming videos, playing games, viewing photos, no matter what you're doing, you're not going to go wrong with a sharper image. But I will say there are some differences here. On one hand, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, with the higher refresh rate, the motion on the screen is going to be a little bit faster and smoother, so that's going to give you a better experience when you're consuming content, and just navigating through the phone in general, it feels a little bit more premium. In addition to this, with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, the Super AMOLED display is going to give us better looking colors and better brightness overall. But that being said, of course, the Moto G Stylus 5G doesn't have a bad image by any means. It's still really crisp and sharp, the colors do look good, and it is decently bright. It's just going to be slightly better quality with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, but on the other hand, clearly the Moto G Stylus 5G is bigger, and having a larger display like this does have its own advantages, so if that's more important to you than having a slightly better quality display, then the Moto G Stylus 5G might have an advantage for you. Now, I personally would rather have the higher quality, so I would choose the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G just for that reason, but again, the Moto G Stylus 5G still does have a really high quality image, and it is much larger, so I can definitely see the case for choosing this phone instead. Now for storage, both of these phones do have 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion. Now funny enough, both of these phones do have other variants with 256GB, but these specific phones in my hands just happen to be the 128GB models of each. But keep in mind, the Moto G Stylus 5G I have is the Cricket variant, as you can see it right here. So the unlocked version is going to have 256, but for the sake of this comparison, we're just going to be using this version. Now, 128GB of internal storage is not bad by any means. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. Even if you're a power user, 128GB is still a lot of space to fill up. And with these phones, luckily, if you do end up filling up all that space, you can also use a microSD card to offload stuff like photos and videos. So no matter what your situation is, whether you're an average user or a power user, it doesn't really matter. Either of these phones is a great choice. Now, there's no wireless charging with either of these phones, but both of them do have not only face unlock, but also a fingerprint scanner. With the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, it's right here in the display. There we go, real fast and responsive. One more time. And there we go. Works really well, looks even better. I have no complaints here. With the Moto G Stylus 5G, we got the fingerprint scanner in a more classic spot here on the back, but it's definitely not bad either. Take a look at this. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So both fingerprint scanners are real fast and responsive. I personally do like the in-display one a little bit better, just because it looks so much more modern and premium, but at the same time, in terms of functionality, they're pretty much the same, so you're not going to go wrong with the Moto G Stylus 5G either. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we got a hole punch here for the front-facing camera, looks real nice and clean, and this camera is 32 megapixels. And then on the back here, we got a quad camera setup with the 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. With the Moto G Stylus 5G, we got a hole punch up here as well. This camera is 16 megapixels, and then on the back here, we got a quad camera setup as well, with a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So all in all, feature-wise, these phones are basically the same. Both of them are going to have pretty much anything you could ask for in a mid-range smartphone. Sure, there's no telephoto lens, but I don't remember the last time I saw a mid-range phone with a telephoto lens, so that's really not even part of the conversation. So in general, if you want a phone with all the features as far as the camera goes, either of these phones will be just fine. But that being said, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does take significantly better quality pictures than the Moto G Stylus 5G. Not that the Moto G Stylus 5G is bad, but the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is really almost flagship level here. So if you want the best of the best, if you want to get some real professional looking photos, maybe you're constantly using the camera, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is probably going to be a better choice here. But if you're a more casual camera user, if you like to take some really nice photos here and there, maybe for social media or something like that, then the Moto G Stylus 5G will be completely fine. Now for video, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G has a max quality of 4K in the rear camera and the front camera at 30 frames per second, and the Moto G Stylus 5G does max out at 1080p in both the rear and front cameras. So clearly here, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does have the advantage in both the max quality and overall. I will say the quality of the videos taken with this phone are significantly better. So again, it really goes back to if you really want to take a lot of videos, if you're using that function often, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is definitely going to be the way to go here. Whereas with the Moto G Stylus 5G, sure, it's not going to be bad, but if you're constantly using that feature, I feel like if you're shooting any kind of videos on a regular basis, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is probably going to be the better choice. But if you're just using Snapchat or something like that, or maybe very rarely shooting a video, then the Moto G Stylus 5G will still get the job done. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is getting 6GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor. The Moto G Stylus 5G is getting 4GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 480 5G processor. I did run Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G came back with a single core score of 742 and a multi-core score of 1910, and the Moto G Stylus 5G came back with a single core score of 504 and a multi-core score of 1660. So in general here, there's definitely quite a difference. The Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is not only a lot more powerful here, but honestly, I don't think there are that many phones, if any for that matter, that are more powerful than this, besides the flagship phones like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE for example. So if you want a really powerful mid-range phone, maybe you don't want to spend the money on a flagship phone yet, but you still want something extremely fast, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is going to be one of the best, if not the best option you can go with. But if you just want a mid-range phone with 5G connectivity that's strong enough to do the basics, like browsing the web, going on social media, even some gaming here and there, then the Moto G Stylus 5G is going to be perfectly fine. I mean, this is not a slow phone by any means, but again, compared to the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, the A53 5G is definitely on a slightly higher level. Now for the batteries, both of these phones have 5000 mAh batteries, so that's good. You're going to get tons of battery life throughout the day and down the road in terms of longevity. But the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does support 25-watt fast charging, whereas the Moto G Stylus 5G supports 10. So performance-wise, the batteries are basically going to be the same. So if you want a phone with really good performance and a great battery, either of these phones will be a good option. As far as fast charging goes, if that's a feature that's really important to you, 25-watt fast charging is significantly better than 10-watt fast charging. That is, if you do have the right fast charger. But overall, for most people in real life, I don't really think it's going to make a huge difference unless you're not really around a charger a whole lot and you really need to charge up your phone fast. But that's probably not the most common scenario out there. Either way, the bottom line is both of these phones do have great batteries, and that's one thing I'm really happy to see. Now, one important difference here is that the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does have NFC, whereas the Moto G Stylus 5G doesn't. This is important if you're using mobile contactless payment services like Google Pay, because you can't use that with the Moto G Stylus 5G since it doesn't have NFC, whereas you can with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, so definitely keep that in mind. Now, speaking of extra features, the Moto G Stylus 5G, as the name suggests, does have a stylus, as you can see right here. The stylus is pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's the best by any means. I mean, you can see right here, this is pretty much all I could draw. It's not really that great quality, kind of slow, a little laggy, definitely not sensitive enough to do any real drawing. Maybe if you like taking handwritten notes, or just for navigating in general, but I don't really think it's that useful. If you really want a stylus, then definitely go for it. But at the same time, compared to something like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, it's really not going to be at that level. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? I would say in pretty much every way, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is going to be the better device here. The display is kind of debatable, which I'll get to in a second, but it does have a better quality camera that can take much better photos. It also can shoot 4K videos. We got a much stronger processor here, and this phone does have NFC, whereas the Moto G Stylus 5G doesn't. But on the other hand, when it comes to display, it really depends on what you value more. If you want a larger display and that's it, obviously the Moto G Stylus 5G is going to be the way to go. But if you'd rather have a slightly higher quality display and still a decently large display in general, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is definitely going to have an advantage there. The other thing is the extra features. If you don't ever use stuff like Google Pay, then you have no reason to care about NFC, but maybe you actually want a stylus to take handwritten notes and navigate through the phone, then the Moto G Stylus 5G is of course going to have a huge advantage here. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to what kind of features you want and what kind of deals you can get. Personally, I haven't really seen that many good deals for the Moto G Stylus 5G. There was a pretty good Cricket deal at one point, which is why I have this phone specifically. But as far as the regular version that you can get unlocked, I haven't really seen a whole lot. Whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, this phone is so new that I really just don't know yet. But I imagine once this does hit the carriers, there's probably going to be quite a few deals. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But in general, if you want a lot of processing power, a great camera, a really high quality display, and then features like NFC, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is definitely going to have an advantage here. But if you'd rather have a larger display, and processing power wise you want something that's strong, but you don't need anything crazy, and you want a stylus too, then the Moto G Stylus 5G is probably going to be a better choice. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.